This video demonstrates the functionalities of the EmbryoScope Plus Time-Lapse incubator and how to use it in its practice.
Validation and calibration procedures of gases and temperature, pH measurement, cleaning and emergency procedures are demonstrated in separate videos. Here you see the three types of time-lapse equipment offered by Vitrolife: the EmbryoScope Plus, the EmbryoScope 8 and the EmbryoScope Flex time-lapse incubator. Basically, all instruments share the same construction and have the same footprint, but with different capacity for culture, both regarding number of dishes cultured in at the same time and the number of embryos cultured in the dishes. The EmbryoScope Plus has the highest capacity and can culture 15 dishes at a time, whereas the EmbryoScope 8 is dedicated for smaller clinics with optimal culture for 8 dishes at a time. You can choose between two types of dishes that fit into these two instruments. The EmbryoScope Plus dish has space for 16 embryos distributed in 2 reservoirs. The embryos are placed in microwells. 8 embryos in each reservoir share the same medium. The other dish, the IC8 dish, has space for 8 embryos in total, which are cultured in individual wells with a centralized microwells. The last time-lapse incubator, the EmbryoScope Flex, has the largest dish capacity with space for 24 dishes at a time. However, the dishes designed for culture in this instrument are smaller and has only space for 6 embryos each. The instrument is suitable for low stimulation treatments, but do also work well in combination with an EmbryoScope Plus if a patient has more than 16 embryos for culture. Some clinics also use the instrument for culture of frozen and later thawed embryos. As mentioned earlier, all instruments share the same construction, so in this video we will mainly focus on the EmbryoScope Plus.
The EmbryoScope Plus time-lapse system is an incubator with a built-in microscope connected to a camera for image acquisition during culture. The embryo chamber consists of a dry incubator environment. This means that it's essential to culture the embryos dishes with an oil overlay to prevent evaporation of the medium and the risk of osmolality changes in the medium. The correct amount of medium and oil are described in the dish loading videos. All data, image acquisition during culture, and information about the incubation are stored in the ES server, which can be placed outside of the laboratory. The embryo viewer station comprises a monitor and a Lenovo PC connected to the server, and it's where you analyze your data through access to the embryo viewer program and modules in the Vitrolife Technology Hub. It is strongly recommended, although not required, to connect the time-lapse incubator and ES server to an uninterrupted power supply, also called UPS, with earth connector to ensure stable operating conditions in case of a power failure. A UPS server is a kind of battery and must be performance tested on a regular basis. On the back side of the EmbryoScope Plus, in the upper right corner, you will find the main power switch to turn on and off the incubator. This is relevant when the cleaning of the instrument inside. Note, after a complete shutdown of the instrument, the EmbryoScope Plus incubator should be turned on at least 3 hours before use to ensure temperature equilibration throughout the instrument. After a complete shutdown, remember to always perform validation of gases and temperature before use. You will find separate inlets for gases, nitrogen and CO2 in the rear side of the incubator. It is not possible to add pre-mixed gases onto the EmbryoScope Plus time-lapse incubator. Instead, the incubator has a built-in gas mixer and thereby the ability to adjust gas concentrations to ensure optimal culture conditions for different medium compositions and when at a different altitude. How to perform pH measurement is demonstrated in a video available on the Vitrolife Academy on Vitrolife's website. CO2 and oxygen sensors inside the machine are continuously measuring the concentrations of the gases set by the user and adjust gases quantity when deviating from the set points. Finally, you will find connections for an external alarm system and to an external looking system to monitor the operation of the incubator. The incubation condition registered by the incubator will be sent to an external alarm system. You can choose between two settings, normally open or normally closed. Vitrolife recommend you to choose normally closed, since this will always induce an alarm in case of power interruption. This is important to mention that this setup should be performed in collaboration with certified Vitrolife personnel and with personnel qualified to operate the internal alarm system to ensure that all alarm signals from the EmbryoScope Plus incubator are registered properly by the clinic's alarm system. On the top of the EmbryoScope Plus, you will find the service lid. A short animation explains how to perform the emergency procedure in case of embryos must be removed immediately. This is demonstrated in a separate video. Contact information to Vitrolife technical support is placed here in the corner. They are available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Under the service lid, you can find the VOC HEPA filter, which continually purifies the environment in the embryo chamber. 120 liters per hour is being recirculated through the filter. At every service visit, the filter is renewed, but in case you prefer to change it more often, please order an additional one to be posted. You can easily change it by yourself. Finally, you find a USB port. This port can be used by the clinic to extract monthly incubation reports. In case of an irrecoverable error occurs, an error message is displayed. You should then restart the integrated PC by pressing with a tip of a pencil or similar on the red PC reset button to shut down the PC screen, followed by a new press to restart.
The EmbryoScope Plus is controlled via two touchscreens. The large PC screen is controlling image acquisition, camera, etc. And it is from where the user adds and removes culture dishes. What you see here is the home screen. When operating on different pages, you can always return to the home screen by pressing this icon. We will talk much more about this later. The small incubator screen is where the user controls incubation parameters for temperature, CO2 and O2 concentration, perform equilibration procedures, etc. This is the home screen, which displays the current incubation conditions. The two touchscreens operate independently. This means in case something should accidentally happen to the main computer, which among other things controls the image acquisition, the incubation will continue to work as normal, so don't worry. In front of the EmbryoScope Plus, you can find the port for external measurement of gases. Remove the cover plate and attach the tube from a gas analyzer to the gas sample outlet and get access to the embryo chamber by turning the port to the left. External measurement of gases and temperature and calibration procedures are described in details in separate videos. The dishes are cultured on a rotating plate, moving in a controlled manner to an inverted microscope connected to a camera for image acquisition. The LED illumination comes from above, and an objective is placed beneath the rotating dishes with embryos. The red LED light bandwidth, 630 nanometer red light, is in the safe area to not harm the embryos during imaging. The exposure time is 2 milliseconds, so overall the embryos are less exposed to hydrolysis light compared to embryos removed daily to be evaluated in the traditional way. The dish holder is built up with a heat foil sandwich construction controlled by 2 independent temperature sensors to ensure a stable temperature for the embryos during culture. Furthermore, the dish holder is disc-shaped, so the dishes fits exactly into each spot with a close contact to the heated metal, which keep the temperature stable during culture.
When you press Add Culture Dish on the PC screen to insert a dish, the plate moves to the loading area with the first available spot. The load door is locked during the operation, and the load door locker appears in orange, and you won't be able to open it. Once the dish holder is in proper position to insert the new dish, you will hear the click, and the load door button changes to white pulsing light. This allows you to open the load door. The smaller button below, named the emergency unlock button, must only be used for emergency purposes. Place the EmbryoScope Plus dish on the dish holder and press gently on the lid to make sure it fits correctly before you close the load door. Since there is no barcode placed on the dish, the EmbryoScope Plus assumes it is an equilibration dish. For medium-filled dishes to be equilibrated in the instrument, select how many dishes you have prepared and the minimum and maximum time for equilibration. Alternatively, the dish could equilibrate in another incubator with similar culture conditions. Press Continue to culture without a barcode. On the PC screen, the dish is displayed in white and for how long it's been equilibrated. Here you can see an equilibration dish appears in green, which means that the equilibration is according to the settings. The red equilibration dish has been equilibrated for longer than the maximum time defined by the user. When it comes to the ES Flex, you insert the ES Flex dish into the EmbryoScope Flex. It is important that you hold your fingers to the 2 top fins as demonstrated here, due to the limited space in the loading area. Again, place your fingers onto the lid to ensure that it's properly inserted. In all 3 types of time-lapse incubators, we find the same loading area, which is isolated from the other dishes by a wall. This allows minimal perturbation of gases and temperature for all patient embryos during openings. The audible alarm will be activated if the load door has been opened for too long, like here, and the gas concentration, CO2 or oxygen, deviates more than 1% from the set point. While new gases are entered and the environment is turning back to normal, let us mute the audible alarm by pressing on the mute button on the incubation screen. In the manual, you can read more about all the different alarms, warnings and alerts that could occur. When the environment is within its normal range, close to the set point, the color of the parameters that were out of range changes from red to orange, and you can reset the alarm. It is not possible to make any changes in the incubation, set point or calibration while the incubator is resolving before an alarm has been reset. It is good practice to check for any resolved alarms and reset these before you leave the laboratory in the afternoon. So, in case you observe an orange warning in the morning, you know something went wrong during the nighttime and you should investigate what induced the alarm.
Let us start an EmbryoSlide Plus culture dish for culture and image acquisition in the EmbryoScope Time-Lapse incubator. First, a label must be printed. This is done from the Embryo Viewer software program. Go to View All Patients to check whether the patient has been cultured in the EmbryoScope before. Search for a unique patient ID. If the patient does not exist in the database, the field appears in red. Then press New, and you will automatically be guided to the patient detail page to create a new patient with relevant information. After this, press New Treatment and enter a unique treatment ID followed by Print Label. Remove an equilibration dish from the EmbryoScope Plus or another incubator. Place the label with patient and treatment ID on the dedicated area of the dish. Make sure it's smoothly applied. In case it's not readable of any reasons, you'll get a message to print a new one. Load the embryos into the culture dish. For this demonstration, we got some mouse embryos from the MEA lab. Press Add Culture Dish on the EmbryoScope Plus PC screen. Remember to press on the load door locker until you see the button change to the pulsing white light. Open the load door. The culture dish should be inserted with the handling fins and barcode labeled towards the operator. As shown earlier, press on the lid to make sure the dish is properly placed in the spot. Close the load door. Now the barcode reader is scanning the label. Specify which type of dish you have inserted, the IC8 dish or the EmbryoSlide culture dish. Patient name and ID together with the treatment ID appears on the PC screen. Confirm that this is the right patient. Now you must enter the insemination time. For embryos inseminated by traditional IVF, enter the time where the sperm were added to the oocyte cumulus complex in the dish dedicated for this. Some clinics prefer overnight insemination, and in the morning of day 1, they denudate the embryos for cumulus cells and load them into the EmbryoSlides for image acquisition. Other clinics perform short-time insemination, approximately 3-4 hours, and start culture in the EmbryoScope Plus already on day 0. This is beneficial to avoid rush the following morning and not missing PN evaluation before the PN starts fading. For ICSI procedure, the insemination time could be an average time for all inseminated oocytes in this cohort. Then remember to note the time of the first and latest micro-injected oocyte. Disable the camera for unused well. This way you avoid generating unnecessarily data. Confirm. The dish holder moves to the microscope and camera for image acquisition. The camera takes pictures in 11 steps through the embryo and hereby captures well the morphology of the embryo. This is repeated every 10 minutes. The lens has a Hoffman-like effect to achieve a three-dimensional image of the embryo, which is excellent when looking for details in the embryo. During image acquisition, all embryos remain in an undisturbed incubation environment.
The white color on the dish, which we currently placed in the EmbryoScope Plus, indicates that it is scanning the embryos to find the middle focal plane. From here, it takes 5 images up and then 5 images down. For a full dish of 16 embryos, it can take up to 2 minutes to scan all embryos. The image acquisition stops for all other running culture dishes while a new dish is being inserted. The image acquisition will automatically resume when the autofocus procedure is complete. Now it is complete for all embryos in this dish. The color changes to yellow until new images are taken approximately 10 minutes later. Let us get an overview of all embryos. Press on the slide. In this new view, you can get an overview of all embryos in this dish displayed with the last images taken of each embryo. In case one is out of focus, it is always possible to adjust. Press on the interested embryo to see an enlarged image. Use the up and down arrows placed to the right to change the focal plane until the plasma membrane of the oocyte appears clear and in focus. Set the focus and click Yes. You can play the video of the developing embryo either by dragging the slider to move several images forward or back, or press the plus and minus button on each side of the slider to move one image forward or backward. If you remove embryos from the dish during culture, for example 3PN zoogitis, or in case you transfer an embryo day 3 and culture the remaining until day 5 for vitrification of potential blastocysts, then you can choose to disable the camera for these wells. First, press on the small camera icon in the corner and following by pressing on the X for each selected embryos, including imaging. Press OK to confirm your choice. When you're done, press the camera symbol again to return to the culture dish review screen. It is important to mention that it is not possible to open the camera for image acquisition in new wells after culture start. To go back to the home screen, click on the home button here in the corner. The other dishes displayed here on the PC screen are cultured for 1, 3 and 5 days, corresponding to the number shown in the corner. The small dots here explain how many wells the camera is open for. The incubator automatically detects if any bubbles are present in the wells. Bubbles are indicated by a red circle around the well in question, and no other alarms or warning are triggered. Here is one example. It is recommended to remove such bubbles since they may disturb the image acquisition. You will simply get black images for a period. Let us take a short look at the patient embryos for day 5 culture, which here appears in green. Green means a decision has been made for transfer for at least one embryo in this slide. The decision is made from the embryo viewer or the VitroLife technology hub. Green means that the embryos were chosen for transfer, blue for freeze, and red to avoid. When you want to remove a dish for transfer or other actions, then move the slider to the right with your finger on the slide bar. This activates the dish holder to move the dish to the load position. When you hear the click, the load door is unlocked and the button changes to pulsing white for the dish to be removed. The black boxes with the cross on the PC screen means free positions for new dishes. Once there are no more free positions, the Add Culture Dish button will disappear. In case you need to shut down the instrument, for instance for cleaning, then first remove all the dishes one by one, as just shown before. On the PC home screen, press on the settings icon, then select Shut Down, and then press Shut Down Computer, followed by turning off the main power switch on the rear side of the instrument in the upper right corner. This will not be shown in this video. Instead, watch the video about cleaning. The EmbryoScope Plus incubator must be connected to an ES server to store data. An EmbryoScope Plus with full capacity can store data for 2 weeks. In case the connection is lost, you will get a red warning. Press the settings icon to go to the settings screen, then press the red frame to get server connection. When the connection to the server has been re-established, the red frame will turn green. You can enable or disable the screensaver. If the screensaver is disabled, the text "Off" is displayed under the screensaver. Press the up arrow to enable it. Use the arrows to set the idle time period after which the screensaver will be activated, for instance for 15 minutes. If you want to disable the screensaver, press the arrow down until the display is off. This could be beneficial during work hours, and when you leave the laboratory, you can enable the screensaver. Over here, you can choose between the variable languages displayed. In case you prefer time-lapse images darker or brighter, the exposure time up here can be changed where you meet your requirements. Before making any changes, call Vitrolife technical support for advice. All this and additional information can be found in our manuals.
Thanks for watching this video.